WWE superstars John Cena and Steve Austin, and he's currently filming the new Shannara TV series from the famous Terry Brooks novels, Christchurch. A big round of applause, Mr. Manu Bennett!
Thanks, guys. Awesome, awesome. You know, I've spent a few hours the last couple of days walking around your city and seeing what a rebuild's going on down here. And you know, you can listen to it on the news. You can, you know, you can try to imagine what it's like. And it's not until you get down here and you sort of see, you know, the energy of the city trying to thrive between the ruins and trying to lift the city back up. And I'm really sort of, I don't know, I have a new opinion of Christchurch as being a real city of survivors. I mean, you could call yourselves like Starling City, in a way. You know? It's a way to go, guys. Honestly, it's a real huge scenario that you guys are going through together, and you know, it's good to see everyone pulling together. Now, you know, you probably know me from. I don't know, who's Spartacus fans out there? Arrow fans? Wow, how did that happen? For a minute there I thought I'd always just be Crixus, you know? And then suddenly Slade Wilson came along, Deathstroke. Azog fans? Oh yeah, didn't see one there. Yeah, well, who knows anything about Terry Brooks and a series called Shannara? Oh, a couple of people? Yeah, because I get a feeling when I come down here again in maybe a couple of years, I'll go, who's a Shannara fan? And they hopefully will be a big surge and everyone will go, yeah. Because yeah, that's the new thing I've just signed on to, which is pretty exciting. I was actually, I'd finished up on Arrow in filming in Vancouver, and I moved down to Los Angeles, you know, like probably about 5 months ago. And I thought my life was going to be based in Los Angeles this year. I thought now's the time. I've, you know, done Spartacus and Hobbit, and now I've, you know, gone abroad, filmed Arrow for a big American network, and I thought now it's my time to do the American scene. And funnily enough, the first audition that I got called in for, I go in and I said, "Where's it shooting?" And they said, "New Zealand." So, but you know, when it all came in and we looked at the contract and everything, you know, there was nothing more I don't know, fulfilling for me, even though I thought I was going to spend this year in America, than actually getting back to the same crew that I worked with on Spartacus, because I know how dynamic and how wonderful the creative talent here is in New Zealand. The producer of our show said that, you know, coming to New Zealand with the expectations that Shannara's got, in other words, to shoot a very high-end fantasy series, television series, that coming here and realizing that our practitioners, that our production teams, they can so easily adapt to that genre. And it goes all the way back to Hercules and Xena, really, and then into Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. Our people here in New Zealand are the best in the world at doing fantasy genre. And you know, it's if you ever run into any production people, you can thank them. I mean, I seem to get the, you know, I mean, when you're in the front of the camera, you seem to get the credit for it. But trust me, it's like there's hundreds of these people that do an amazing job with lighting and with sound and with special effects in post-production. All of these guys are the real workload behind the series that comes across your screen. I'm just basically, I think I'm like the cow. I'm like the cow that's on front of the milk carton. And you go, oh, that cow makes it look healthy. Drink this milk. I'm the cow. But you know, yeah, so much more work goes into it, and I'm just, you know, I'm just really happy to be back in New Zealand and working with that amount of talent again on Shannara. And I'm loving the character. I play this character called Alanon. And Alanon's a, some people make a comparison with Shannara and Lord of the Rings, because there's elves, there's goblins, there's all this sort of like Shady Vale. There's a place called Shady Vale. You know, it's a lot like you know, Hobbiton and stuff like this. So, you know, it's, but I play basically the Gandalf character. But he's like Gandalf meets Slade Wilson meets Crixus. So he's quite a badass druid. And yeah, it's going to be interesting taking all of the things that I've taken out of the last few characters and kind of making them this character of Alanon, including this haircut, by the way, yeah. When I got home with this, my daughter was like, Daddy, what happened to your hair? But listen, I'd like to, you know, answer some of your questions. We're doing Q&A here, is that what it is? We got some questions out there?
We do. Hello, yes. Sorry, this young lady can't stand up. She's got a bug leg. Hang on.
Sure, mate.
Also work on Aero and Deathstroke. Since seriously, what was it like working with Stephen and Mel and kicking his ass?
Well, F, pink ribbon, CK, Oliver Queen. No, just, yeah, it looks, you know, Steve's an amazing young talent, you know, who's really done an incredible job as the Arrow. You know, it was quite a big journey going to Vancouver. It happened very quickly. I'll tell you a brief story about how I got the role, for starters. The American military was really big. They were really big fans of Spartacus. As you can imagine, there's like a brotherhood of soldiers in a scenario where people are dying, and you know, there's a lot of threat and danger all the time for those boys. So they identified with Spartacus, and there's an organisation that basically gets entertainers to go and visit the troops, you know, when they're away doing service. And so we got asked by this organisation to go to Afghanistan, and you know, it was pretty hair-raising at first. I went and saw my bank and I said, "Does my insurance cover me if I go to Afghanistan?" And they said, "No. It's a red zone. So if something happens to you when you're in a red zone, your life insurance isn't covered by the bank." Just to make you aware of that, if any of you plan to go and travel to red zones. So it was a hairy situation, and we ended up flying into Kuwait and going to a place called Camp Arifjan, where we were then going to be helicoptered up to Afghanistan. Now, probably fortuitously, some heavy stuff went down in Afghanistan at the time we were there, and they cancelled us flying up in the Black Hawks. We were going to go up in the Black Hawk helicopters, and they called it off. But you know, I'm sure that was for a very good reason. You know, but we were over there with these special forces guys and all of these particular soldiers. And one of the special forces guys, I said to him, you know, well, I went round because I wanted to find out who was like the Rambo. I said, who's like the toughest guy on the whole camp? And they said, oh, this guy called Midnight. So I went looking for this guy, and he was this bald, older guy, you know, but supposedly he'd seen a lot of action. And we were sort of all in this room together at one stage, and I had a microphone. I said, Midnight, I want you to show me like a move, you know, like how do you like stealthily go into a scenario, and like, you know, because I hear you've got to, you know, sometimes you've got to go into a village, and you know, how do you how do you take somebody down when you're in stealth mode? And so he showed me this chokehold, and he grabbed me in it. And I'm sure that he just wanted to show off a little bit in front of the rest of his boys and to show that he was as badass as he is. So he almost choked me out. I was sitting there, like, to be honest, kids, can you close your ears? But I grabbed him as hard as I could by his old gonies. I swear to you, I was like, suddenly went into fight for life mode, you know, something just kicked in because I knew he was choking me out. So I grabbed him by the gonies and I'm like, ah. And he said he couldn't feel them for 2 days, but I think Midnight doesn't feel anything. He's just he's an interesting soldier. But you know, he almost choked me out, and then he let me go. But I ended up making really good friends with him and a couple of guys. And when I left Kuwait, and at the last second, I decided to fly through Los Angeles. I was coming back for the Hobbit premiere. But I decided I'd fly through Los Angeles for a couple of days and just stop there instead of flying back the other way, straight back to New Zealand. So I did that, and they all came and saw me off at the airport. And one of the things that they do over there, all these soldiers, is that they all have on them those 6-hour energy drinks. And they've been giving them to me to sort of stay awake when I was there because of the jet lag. And so Knight came up to me and he said, here, something to remember us by. And I put this 6-hour energy drink in my bag and never thought anything more of it. When I got to Los Angeles, on the day that I was flying out, I was only there for like 2 days, and on the day that I was flying out, my manager rang me in the morning and she said, what time's your flight? And I said, well, I got to be in the airport in 4 hours. She said, can you go and audition for this show called Arrow? And I said, are you kidding me? I've got to be at the airport in like 4 hours. She says, just go right now, go straight to the studio. They've got sides there ready for you to read, and you know, you can get there. They'll be ready for you as soon as you get there. So I was like, oh, okay, just fly by the seat of your pants. It's my job. I've got to go and do a read right now. So I got this car over to this studio in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, and I got in there, and there was a group of guys, they were all walking around like this, going, you know, actors when you go into audition scenarios look like a bunch of weirdos, really. They're all talking to themselves. And then I picked up this particular sheet of audition paper, and it was this character called, and it wasn't Slade Wilson, it was like, it was Holloway or something. And I was looking at it and I was going, okay, so the scene read that Holloway drops, a dark figure drops through the roof of the fuselage of the plane. Remember on the island there was the aeroplane? And the very first scene that I ever did with the Arrow was Slade Wilson dropped through the ceiling, then jumped up behind him and grabbed him in a chokehold. And I'm reading this and I'm going, chokehold. That guy in Afghanistan, that guy in Kuwait taught me this chokehold. I forgot to tell you one more thing. When I got there, I felt really jet lagged because I'd flown like New Zealand to Kuwait. I was there for a few days and flown straight to LA, so I was really jet lagged. And I was going, oh God, how am I going to get any energy? And I went, Midnight gave me this 6-hour energy drink. So I'd taken this energy drink out and sculled it about 15 minutes before I had to do my read. And I swear to you, when I read for Slade Wilson, I was on Mirakuru. Because this stuff just suddenly I was like, and then when I went in there, I went in there and I said, listen, in the script it says that he's got him in a chokehold. So can I get that young guy to come from behind the camera, the reader? Can I get him to come in front of the camera? Can I grab him in the chokehold? And at the same time, this caffeine was like exploding through my system. And come up here, kid. No, you're too small, you're too small. Are you over 18? Can you sign a waiver? Just down the stair here.
You can't sue anyone in this country.
Yeah, I know, Anyway, so the director's going like, you know, are you ready? And I said, yeah. I said, kid, I'm just going to put you in a chokehold, okay? But just don't worry about it, it's going to work. So I grabbed this guy in this chokehold, right? And he said, you ready to go? You ready to go? And by this time, I must have already started squeezing. And the scene went like this. It went, you got 10 seconds to tell me something I believe, kid. Or I'm going to cut out your throat box. Remember that scene? Right, so here's me in the audition doing that scene, and I didn't realize I'm choking this kid out. And just after I finished that line, this kid collapsed. You don't have to do that here, just do it. This kid collapsed. Good on you, kid. Unconscious on the floor. I'm in the middle of Hollywood doing like one of my very first auditions, thinking I'm never going to read in this town again. And I said, kid, I said, is this part of the scene? I said, no, I think you choked him out. Kid, are you okay? And he was like, ugh. I said, kid, come on. And the director said, go wash your face in the bathroom. So this kid went off to the bathroom to splash his face with water. And I was like, I'm really sorry about that. I just got back from Kuwait, you know, and this guy taught me this chokehold, and obviously it works. But he was Special Forces, you know, and this guy's Special Forces, so I'm sorry about it, you know, and I actually thought I was going to get kicked out. But the director, the casting director said, it was perfect. I don't recommend anybody try that. It was a very special moment. It was a special moment. I'll always think about this and go like, that's Ben's reality. You know, it doesn't really happen like that, but you know, he said to me, look, it was so good, it was so real. You put everything into it. It was fantastic. And so I walked out, and he said, look, I'm going to call your agent, and I'm going to call the producers. I think you've done a really good test. You're probably in for a chance at this. And so I went out and I rang my agent. She was like, oh, what happened, Manu? What happened? What happened? And I said, well, I choked the guy out for starters, unconscious. And she went, what? Manu? And I'm like, yeah, but they said it was really good. They loved it. So I went, oh, okay. So I went and jumped on a plane, and I came back and I did the premiere for the first Hobbit movie. And I got woken up at 8 o'clock the next morning from my agent, and she went, Manu, you've got the role, you've got the role. And I was like, and I said, when are they shooting? And she says, you're on a plane tomorrow to Vancouver for 6 months. And it was, you know, that's what this life's like, I guess, as an actor. You get sort of, you know, things that just happen that can change your life like that, you know. And suddenly you find yourself in a new role, you know, just like what happened now. Like, you know, that 1 minute I'm sort of over in Vancouver, then I go down to Los Angeles, and next minute I'm flown back and I'm doing a Shannara back in New Zealand, which I couldn't be any happier for. But yeah. Did that get anywhere near answering your question? It didn't even, did it? I went off on a tangent.
Hello, is there any chance of Deathstroke being in any of the upcoming DC movies?
Oh, well, you know, like the new Suicide Squad film, Deathstroke's definitely in it. I'm almost absolutely certain they're not going to be using any television version of the characters in that film. I think Joe Manganiello's up for it. He's a mate of mine, actually. It'll be interesting to see how Joe pulls it off. But, you know, Joe's been under consideration for Deathstroke. You know, but yeah, you know, DC's going strong, you know. I mean, they're going very strong in the television market, and you know, there's always these talks of if it's doing well in the television market, they're going to take it to feature film. So I think Suicide Squad's for certain, yeah.
How long did it take to do the Azog costume? Like to get it on and everything?
Azog's completely motion capture. So basically, you know, it's a bodysuit that's got dots all over it, and whenever I move, it creates motion, you know, exact replication of the motion that I do. And then the artists just paint. Basically, it's like just doing very smart body. Sorry, I bored you. You know, go out and see if you can find Carl Urban. Go on. Yeah, so it's all motion captures. Like, you know, I go in there and they want my physical performance, and then afterwards, you know, I've got this GoPro camera that's on a helmet that films your face. So everything about my expressions and movement is what they use, but it's just like it's like just applying body paint. You know, that's the way they create it. You know, the artists draw over the top of your motion to create that character, and then I do the voice later in post-production. I do it with ADR. You know, so I'll have the scripts and I've got them on the day, but I don't really know them that well on the day that I shoot, the first day, because Peter never hands out the scripts. So I usually get flown in, like I got flown in from the States last time, landed in Wellington, I was at the hotel, I'm starting the next morning, and the script is in my hotel waiting for me. But if you've ever tried to read black speech on a page, it's not easy, mate. It's like taking German class for, you know, like as a 6-year-old.
Who did you get along with on the cast of Arrow most? Or who was your favourite person?
Oh, to be honest, Katie Lotz, who played the young Black Canary, just because she's a great laugh. You know, I enjoy being with people who are, you know, who have fun on set. You know, some people take their job very seriously, and that's fair enough. But you know, for me, being with a bunch of people for a long period of time, you know, I think I've learned it over the years. When I first did my first jobs, I was very, you know, I'm the actor, you know, I have to be inside myself and just, you know, it's all about you. But I think when you get the most out of working with a team, is to be part of that team, you know. And now I've come to the point in my career where I'll walk in and I'll say, hey, to the lighting department or the camera guys, and I'll go, hey boys, what's going on? Yeah, let's go, hey, let's do it. You know, and have fun with them, you know, because at the end of the day, then when you're in the middle of a shot, whether it's serious or whether it's emotional or whatever, I can still look at them and go, hey brother, let's go, here we go, and then just turn it on. You know what I mean? It's such a, you know, it's such a focused kind of a field that if you just sit there in the moment all the time, you know, as an actor, I think it can burn you out. You know, so I've learned over time to just relax and go through the motions and be appreciative of the people that are around me. But you know, Katie was just a good laugh. You know, all the girls. Steve's good value, but he's got a lot on his shoulders. You know, and so a lot of the time he's just really focused on his job. You know, and you know, trying to hold that you know, that leading role position. But that's all cool. You know what I mean?
Hey, what's your workout for roles and how to get buff and stuff?
Well, you know what, mate? I'm 46 this year, so you know when I first started up on Spartacus, I was probably in my peak, and you know, I worked really hard. But something about fighting as a gladiator, you know, doing a lot of sword and shield work, it takes a major toll on your shoulders. A lot of the boys that came out of Spartacus have got rotator cuff injuries. You know, like basically it's RSI of your shoulder joints. And you know, when I got to Arrow, I actually backed off it a little bit because I had some tears. And just 3 weeks ago, I went and had an MRI, and my supraspinatus has an 80% tear, thickness tear, which means I have to have an operation on it. So I've got to detach my, you know, my supraspinatus from the bone and reattach it and do a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, this especially with sort of doing a lot of physical roles like I have done, the danger is that we shoot so much, and we you know, it's hard to keep your gym regime going up in between. Like before you start shooting a series, you know, you usually get in and you get yourself really ready, but then during the actual shooting process, you find very little time. But luckily at Shannara, they've actually got a gym set up there, so I'm going to be going up there doing a lot of rehab work as soon as I get this operation done, so I'll be back on top of it. But I mean, mate, at the end of the day, it's a very competitive field. I found that when I did Spartacus, that the way that I stood out was to stay on top of all of that stuff and be leading the pack. You know, boys came in on that show and I'd always just, like Crixus, I try to lead. And so whenever we did fitness tests and stuff like that, I used to push myself to, you know, throwing up, mate. You know, I remember the first couple of weeks of getting ready for the last season. And I wasn't as fit as I was in the first season, but I wasn't going to let any of the boys beat me, eh? And we did the first day back, we did the entry-level fitness test for the New Zealand Special Forces. And so we had to do a whole bunch of stuff, and then it finished with like a 3.5K run. And I remember setting off on that run. We ran up in Auckland along the foreshore, and I remember in the last kilometre of that run, bro, I was just like wanting to throw up, you know. But I just wouldn't let any of the boys overtake me, and I was just, well, I'm racing up behind, I was going, but you know, what happened with doing that prior to going into filming is the moment that we got into those arenas, we already had that mentality. You know, when I got out there, I was just, you know, going to do Crixus the way Crixus was, and all the other boys were in there just knowing we had a high level of performance that we were always trying to achieve. So, you know, the physical side of it was very big in Spartacus.
Just quickly on that fitness test, how did Barry Duffield do? He played Lugo.
Barry, I don't know what his secret is, brother, but he's always big for some reason. But he's big, you know. I mean, Barry's fantastically kind of like, he's a physical trainer and all that sort of stuff, so he knows how to get big. But yeah, he's done really well. Yeah, Barry's alive.
Hi Manu. I was just wondering, what was your favourite character out of all the ones you played, and what was your favourite scene that we watched on?
Oh, you know, I mean, I don't know. I feel like my career's been kind of like a tree, you know. And a lot of the hard work is the stuff that you do at the beginning, where you're not recognised, where there's no branches that bear fruit. You know, where you become more solid just because you've got to try to become something from nothing. You know what I mean? So that's the trunk. That's the trunk of a career. You know, like I can't tell you how many years of just, you know, I speak to young actors come up to me here and they go, can you give me some advice on being an actor? And I don't know how to really tell them about that trunk period. Because that trunk period is just the way any person has to become strong within themselves to make the decision to start growing branches to become a tree in any career that they choose, you know. And the trunk period's just a purely individual thing, you know. But you know, it's perseverance, you know. And you know, once I started getting roles, you know, I remember the first really significant role that I got was on Xena. On Xena, I got the role of Mark Antony. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that was a significant role. I thought to myself, I'm playing Mark Antony. Crying out loud, that's a major historic figure and quite a dramatic role, you know. Lucy Lawless was going to play Cleopatra in the episode, even though she was Xena, pretending to be Cleopatra, trying to protect Egypt from Rome. It was Lucy Lawless, you know. And I remember going to the audition in Australia, and I thought Lucy Lawless was like 6 foot tall, which she is once she puts shoes on, you know. But I thought, I'm probably too short to be Mark Antony, so when I was in the audition I went, I'm 6'1". And when I got there, all my costumes were too long. And one of my cousins was in the wardrobe department. She went, well, Manu, I knew there were no 6-footers in the Bennett family anyway. That was funny. But you know, that first role was really significant for me. That's when I actually thought, oh, I'm an actor playing a really significant role. And Rob Tappert, who was the producer on that, then cast me several years later in 30 Days of Night with Josh Hartnett, which was a horror movie that shot here in Auckland. Now, because I'd done those 2 shows with Rob Tappert then had me cast as Crixus. And so really my relationship in order to get the Crixus role started in 1999, even though I shot that series in 2009. So there had been that trunk thing that I'm telling you about. That trunk had started to build into a branch from 1999, you know, with Rob Tappert, this producer who believed in me as an actor. So, you know, when I got you know, Spartacus, that for sure was the first role that I would ever got to get an international audience. And you know, Spartacus is massive internationally, you know. I mean, it's I can go to any country on the planet, and people would have watched Spartacus, you know. And, you know, Spartacus then led to, you know, the moment that I went down to do The Hobbit. You know, Peter Jackson came up to me and he said, I love you in Spartacus. And that's why, you know, I think you're going to do a good job as Azog, you know, so that led into that. And, you know, then working with Peter Jackson, I mean, you know, you can't really, I mean, to this day, like, I can't be in anything bigger than The Hobbit. Really, I mean, more people on the planet will watch that movie than almost any movie that'll ever be made. You know, it's such big numbers, so it's hard to go over that. So that was a really significant thing to be a part of. You know, Arrow for me was the first series that I ever shot that was not in Australia or New Zealand. Oh no, so I did a movie once in Japan, but that was kind of weird. That was kind of like taking a trip. Don't listen to me, kids. But you know, so you know, each role has had a step, you know, and I feel like Shannara, even though it's, you know, I thought that going to America and sort of pushing and becoming, you know, an actor in America would make me feel like I was moving up, but actually coming back to New Zealand and being part of Shannara, that makes me feel like I'm moving up, because I feel like my place, even though I'm sort of going for that international career, by strengthening an international career within New Zealand is the best thing that I can do for myself and my family, because my kids live here and, you know, my partner. So it's kind of like, you know, my life is being strengthened by actually coming back and doing a Shannara, rather than being in America and everyone sort of like getting away from the roots a bit. I've sort of come back to the trunk. So, you know, Crixus, Azog, you know, Al-Anon now. I mean, they're all the same to me. They're all part of the same, you know, evolution. And yeah, I just really appreciate each of the roles, you know. And all I hope is that, you know, Al-Anon, when you see it, and I think you will. I mean, anybody who liked the energy of Crixus, you know, the fight of Crixus, and then maybe enjoyed Gandalf throughout the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit thing. I think I got those two things and I've mixed them up into this Al-Anon character. And he's badass, I'm telling you, he's badass. And the filming of it looks really good, looks really, really good. I mean, it looks better than anything I've seen on television. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that coming out, yeah.